Paperboard is a thick paper-based material. While there is no rigid differentiation between paper and paperboard, paperboard is generally thicker than paper. According to ISO standards, paperboard is a paper with a grammage above 224 grams per square meter, but there are exceptions. Paperboard can be single or multi-ply. Paperboard can be easily cut and formed, is lightweight, and because it is strong, is used in packaging. Another end use would be graphic printing, such as book and magazine covers or postcards. Sometimes it is referred to as cardboard, which is a generic lay term used to refer to any heavy paper pulp-based board. Paperboard is also used in fine arts for creating sculptures. History. In 1817, the first paperboard carton was produced in England. Folding cartons first emerged around the 1860s and were shipped flat to save space, ready to be set up by customers when they were required. 1879 saw the development of mechanical die cutting and creasing of blanks. In 1911, the first kraft sulfate mill was built in Florida, and in 1915 the gable-top mill carton was patented, and in 1935 the first dairy plant was observed using them. Governable paperboard was introduced in 1974. Terminology and classification. Terminology and classifications of paperboard are not always uniform. Differences occur depending on specific industry, locale, and personal choice. In general, the following are often used: boxboard or carton board, paperboard for folding cartons and rigid setup boxes, folding boxboard, a bending grade capable of being scored and bending without fracture, chipboard, a recycled, low-quality board, white-lined chipboard, a white, often clay-coated chipboard, craftboard, a strong virgin fiber board often used for beverage carriers, often clay-coated for printing, laminated board, a lamination of paperboards and other materials, for example liquid packaging board, solid bleached board, a solid bleached sulfate, clean white board used for foods, etc. Sulfate refers to the kraft process. Solid unbleached board, board made from unbleached chemical pulp. Container board, a type of paperboard manufactured for the production of corrugated fiber board. Corrugated medium, the inner fluted portion of corrugated fiber board. Liner board, a strong stiff board for one or both sides of corrugated boxes. It is the flat covering over the corrugating medium. Other binders board, a paperboard used in book binding for making hard covers. Production. Fibrous material is turned into pulp and bleached to create one or more layers of board, which can be optionally coated for a better surface and/or improved visual appearance. Paperboard are produced on paper machines that can handle higher grammages and several plies. Raw materials. The above-mentioned fibrous material can either come from fresh sources or from recycled waste paper. Around 90% of virgin paper is made from wood pulp. Today, paperboard packaging in general, and especially products from certified sustainable sources, are receiving new attention, as manufacturers dealing with environmental, health, and regulatory issues look to renewable resources to meet increasing demand. It is now mandatory in many countries for paper-based packaging to be manufactured wholly or partially from recycled material. Raw materials include hardwood, California 0.05 inches in length, e.g. birch, which has short fibers. It is generally more difficult to work with, however, it does provide higher tensile strength, but lower tear and other strength properties. Although its fibers are not as long and strong as those in softwood, they make for a stiffer product defined by some stiffness tests. Hardwood fibers fill the sheet better and therefore make a smoother paper that is more opaque and better for printing. Hardwood makes an excellent corrugating medium. Softwood, California 0.13 inches in length, e.g. pine and spruce, which have typically long fibers and make superior paperboard in services where strength is important. Softwood makes excellent linerboard. Recycled, used paper is collected and sorted and usually mixed with virgin fibers in order to make new material. This is necessary as the recycled fiber often loses strength when reused. The added virgin fibers enhance strength. Mixed waste paper is not usually de-inked for paperboard manufacture, and hence the pulp may contain traces of inks, adhesives, and other residues which together give it a gray color. Products made of recycled board usually have a less predictable composition and poorer functional properties than virgin fiber-based boards. Health risks have been associated with using recycled material in direct food contact. Swiss studies have shown that recycled material can contain significant portions of mineral oil, which may migrate into packed foods. Mineral oil levels of up to 19.4 milligrams per kilogram were found in rice packed in recycled board. Others. It is also possible to use the fibers of sugarcane bagasse, straw, hemp, cotton, flax, ganaf, abaca, and other plant products. Pulping. Two principal methods for extracting fibers from the sources are: chemical pulping uses chemical solutions to convert wood into pulp, yielding around 30% less than mechanical pulping. However, pulp made by the Kraft process has superior strength. Thermomechanical pulp is a two-stage process which results in a very high yield of wood fibers at the expense of strength. Bleaching pulp used in the manufacture of paperboard can be bleached to decrease color and increase purity. Virgin fiber pulp is naturally brown in color because of the presence of lignin. Recycled paperboard may contain traces of inks, bonding agents, and other residue which colors it gray. Although bleaching is not necessarily for all end users, it is vital for many graphical and packaging purposes. There are various methods of bleaching, which are used according to a number of factors, for example, the degree of color change required, chemicals chosen, and method of treatment. There are three categories of bleaching methods. Bleaching by delignification using chlorine gas, which is a method that has been largely replaced by procedures which are gentler to the environment, such as the use of oxygen as a replacement for the chlorine gas. Bleaching by oxidation using chemicals such as chlorine dioxide, hydrogen peroxide, or sodium hypochlorite. Bleaching by reduction using chemicals such as sodium bisulfite. Plies. Multi-ply paperboard generally has higher creasing and folding performance than single ply as a result of layering different types of pulp into a single product. In cases where the same kind of pulp is being used in several layers, each separate layer is treated and shaped individually in order to create the highest possible quality. Coating. In order to improve whiteness, smoothness, and gloss of paperboard, one or more layers of coating is applied. Coated paper is usually made up of a pigment which could be china clay, calcium carbonate, or titanium dioxide, usually a combination of two, an adhesive, a binder, a styrene, butadiene emulsions, or starches, and water. Additional components could be OBA. Grades. The DIN Standard 19303 Paperboard Terms and Grades defines different grades of paperboard based on the surface treatment, the main furnish, and the color or bulk. Example: GC1 would be a pigment-coated, virgin mechanical pulp board with a white reverse side. Often the used paperboard type would be FBB, which was coated on both sides. Common terms. Basis weight is the weight in 1,000 square feet of paperboard. Brightness. Brightness is a technical term that is defined as the amount of blue-white light that a paper reflects. This property is very subjective and individual to each buyer and end use. as skin color and food are better reproduced on warm whites and not blue whites. Grammage. The grammage of the paperboard is assessed in accordance ISO 536. Grammage expresses mass per unit area and is measured in gram per square meter. pH. Surface pH is measured on a water extract and is on a scale of 0 to 14. 0 is acidic, 7 is neutral and 14 is alkaline. Stiffness. Stiffness is one of the most important properties of paperboard as it affects the ability of cartons to run smoothly through the machine that erects, fills and closes them. Stiffness also gives strength and reduces the propensity of a carton to bulge under the weight of settling flowable contents such as cereals. Although most paper strength properties increase with increasing sheet density, stiffness does not. A rule of thumb is that stiffness is proportional to the 1.6 power of sheet caliper. The species of fiber used has an effect on stiffness, other things being equal. Northern softwood species impart superior stiffness compared to southern softwoods. Other factors which affect board stiffness include coatings and moisture content. Smoothness. Smoothness is particularly important when being used for printing. The smoother the paperboard, the better the image quality, because of better ink coverage. Smoothness is measured using air leak methods. The greater the rate of air leakage at a specific air pressure from under a cylindrical knife placed on the surface, the rougher the surface. Caliper thickness. In the United States, caliper is usually expressed in thousandths of an inch or points, where a sheet of paperboard with a thickness of 0.024 would be 24 points. In Europe it is often sold in gram per square meter, however the thickness of the board is measured in micron. Paperboard also tends to be referred to with thickness rather than weight. Whiteness. It refers ideally to the equal presence of all colors, because a truly white sheet will reflect all wavelengths of visible light equally. Paperboard industry. The paperboard sector is mainly looked at in conjunction with the paper industry. The paper and paperboard market size had a value of $630.9 billion United States dollars and a volume of 320.3 million metric tons. 40.1% of that market is European. About 50% of all produced paper is used for packaging, followed by printing and writing. According to Carton, the consumption of paper and paperboard seem to correlate with economic trends. Sales of carton in Europe sum up to around €8 billion worth. Over 1,100 printers produce 5.4 million tons of cartonboard yearly. Cartons make up 1/3 of paper and board packaging and 15% of all packaging. A bit more than half of the European carton is produced using recovered fiber or waste paper. The paper and paperboard industry is quite energy and capital intensive. Just a coated board machine itself can cost around 90 to 120 million euros. Economies of scale apply, because of which a few large players often dominate the marketplace. E.g. in North America the top 5 producers have a market share of 85%.